They tried to silence you, but God revealed the truth in front of them. Have you ever been in a situation where no matter what you did, how kind, honest, or sincere you were, people still got it all wrong? They misunderstood you. They twisted your words. They questioned your heart. And you stood there wondering, God, why are they trying so hard to shut me down? Let's be honest, it hurts. It's painful when you're walking in truth, doing what's right, staying faithful, and yet people try to silence your voice. Not because you're wrong, but because your presence exposes what they don't want to deal with. It's not just about your words. It's the light you carry, the truth you stand on, and the peace you refuse to give up. And sometimes it feels easier to just stay quiet, to shrink back, to keep the peace by losing your voice. But that's not what God called you to do. Here's what I need you to hear today. God saw it all. He saw what they said behind your back. He saw how they treated you like the problem when you were carrying the solution. And guess what? The season is shifting. The silence is over. God is revealing the truth, and not just in private, but right in front of the people who tried to hide it. Not to embarrass anyone, not to make a scene, but to vindicate the one He called, to protect His truth, to elevate what was once ignored. This message is for every person who's felt pushed aside, mislabeled, and silenced. You've been quiet long enough, and now it's God's turn to speak for you. Before we go further, don't forget to hit subscribe and join this growing community here on Truth 1 Verse 101. This space is for people like you, real people walking through real pain and still choosing to follow God. We speak truth here, and if you're looking for weekly encouragement straight from Scripture to your heart, hit that bell. You'll be glad you did. Let's jump into the heart of today's message. When they tried to shut you down. Let's talk about the silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind where you feel shut down, invisible, overlooked. It's hard, isn't it? You were just trying to do the right thing. Maybe you stood up for someone. Maybe you told the truth when it was easier to lie. Maybe you stayed loyal when others were playing games. And instead of being honored for it, you were pushed out, talked about, lied on. You were made to feel like you were the problem. They tried to silence you, not just your words, but your presence. And you stayed quiet, not because you were weak, but because you didn't want to cause more pain. You thought, if I just stay still, maybe it'll pass. Maybe they'll come around. Maybe God will fix it. And that still, small voice inside you whispered, "Don't fight this in the flesh. Let me handle it." Friend, God saw that. Every tear, every time you bit your tongue, every moment you walked away when you could have fired back. He saw it, and He didn't forget. Think about David, anointed by God, called to be king, but treated like an enemy. Saul hunted him down, all while David stayed in the background, hiding in caves, waiting on God. And you know what? David didn't have to prove himself. God did it for him. That's the part no one talks about, the waiting room of injustice. You sit there, heartbreaking, watching people believe the wrong version of the story. But you didn't give up. You didn't become bitter. You didn't let their lies change who you were. And because of that, your time is coming. God is going to do what only He can, make the truth louder than the lie. And when He does, it's not just about proving you right.
It's about showing that your integrity was never wasted. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was worship. So don't regret holding your peace. God's about to show everyone why you stayed quiet and why it was the strongest thing you could have done. 2. When God reveals what was hidden. There's something powerful about how God reveals truth. He doesn't do it with drama. He doesn't do it to humiliate people. He does it with precision, with timing, with purpose. Think about Joseph. His own brothers sold him, lied to their father about him. For years, Joseph was forgotten, falsely accused, left to rot in a prison. But when God stepped in, He didn't just release Joseph, He elevated him, promoted him, positioned him right in front of the very people who once tried to erase him. And when his brothers finally stood before him, they saw it. The truth they tried to bury came back, full force, staring them in the face. That's what God does. He doesn't just expose the lie, He restores the one who was wronged. In your life, maybe it hasn't been a prison. Maybe it's been a toxic workplace, a fake friendship, or even church hurt. You were shut out while others thrived. Your name was dragged while they looked clean. But God has a way of making sure the truth is revealed at the right time. And here's the thing. When He does it, you won't need to defend yourself. You won't need to send the receipts. You won't need to say, "See, I told you," because the truth will be undeniable. Luke 8:17 says, "For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be brought to light." That verse is for you. It's not a threat, it's a comfort. You didn't have to manipulate anything. You didn't have to chase revenge. You just had to stay faithful. And now, God is lifting the curtain. People are starting to see who you really are. The truth is becoming clear. And what once seemed like loss is turning into favor. You see, when God steps in, He brings clarity. And with clarity comes healing. And even though it hurts to be revealed in front of others, it also brings freedom. You don't have to carry the weight anymore. You don't have to prove anything anymore. God's already done it.
3. When God elevates you anyway. One of the most beautiful things about God is that He doesn't just defend you, He promotes you. When the dust settles, when the lies fall apart, when the silence finally breaks, He steps in and lifts you up. Not out of pride, not to say, "I won," but to say, "This is my child, and I've always had their back." Psalm 23:5 says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." That verse hits differently when you've walked through betrayal. It means they don't have to like you. They don't have to agree with you, but they will have to watch as God blesses you. And here's the deeper truth. Your elevation isn't even about you. It's about showing others what God can do when someone stays obedient in the quiet places. It's about letting others know you don't have to fight dirty to win. You don't have to lie to get ahead. You can trust God and still come out on top. Your story is going to be someone else's hope. That person who's being falsely accused right now, that girl who's crying because her friends turned against her, that man who keeps doing the right thing and getting overlooked, they're going to look at you and say, if God did it for them, maybe He'll do it for me too. That's what elevation really is. Not just success, but significance. So let God lift you. Let Him open the doors. And when He does, walk through them with humility, grace, and peace. Because your story, it's not about revenge. It's about redemption.
Let's bring this full circle. Yes, they tried to silence you. They talked, they judged, they gossiped, they twisted the story. But God knew.
And more than that, He cared. And now, He's doing what only He can, revealing the truth, restoring your voice, and redeeming what was lost. This is your confirmation. You didn't imagine it. You weren't crazy. You weren't too sensitive. You were right to trust God instead of fighting people. You were right to stay silent when you could have spoken out of anger. You were right to believe that truth always rises. So breathe deep. Let go of the weight. You don't have to carry it anymore. God is doing what He promised. And when people start coming around, asking for the version of the story they didn't hear, smile. You don't need to explain it all. The truth speaks for itself now. Before you leave, don't forget to hit subscribe to Truth 1 Verse 101. We're here every week to speak life, lift spirits, and remind you that God's truth always wins. Because no matter who tried to shut you down, God just made sure they heard you loud and clear. And guess what? This is only the beginning.